Let me introduce myself first. My name is Iwashita Akemi. I'm in 3A. After all that, the seventh person didn't come, huh? Maybe they forgot, or maybe something happened and they couldn't. Or maybe the seventh person wasn't asked to begin with. I don't think it matters either way. No matter why, the reality is, they're not here. You can't change fate. But I wonder if that's really true. There are some people whose fate is decided from the moment they're born. The gods decide it for them. And no matter what, they can't change it. People say that everyone is equal, but I don't agree. There are those who are born rich, and those who are born poor. And for most people, that doesn't change until death. Is that equality? I don't think it is. If that's fate, then the gods are cruel. Hey, Kurata-san, do you believe in fate? I do. Yes, you believe in fate. And do you think that fate can be changed? It can. I'm starting to understand what type of person you are. So, are you satisfied with your life? I am. Really? So you're happy. But I wonder if that really means you're satisfied. There's a chance you could be living a better life than this one. If you'll let me say it, I think you're compromising. If you really want to achieve happiness, then you have to kill someone. That's the story I'm about to tell you now. A story about fate. Even if you try to change your own fate, it can't be done so easily. You have to struggle through hard work, study, and controlling yourself. And even then, if fate really does exist, I don't think it can be changed so easily. But there is a simple way. Or at the very least, it's a way to satisfy the person in question. Do you know what it is? It's relying upon an object. It's something that happens a lot lately, right? Gemstones, tachyons, pyramid powers. Objects that possess surreal powers. By relying on such things, you can change your fate and open the way to a brighter future. By completely relying upon something else, without putting any effort in, what result awaits? If you're smart, I think you'll know the answer to that. I wonder if there's anyone around you who's like that. Someone who clings to such unknown powers. There's someone in my class that does. An unfortunate person attracted to the magical powers. Her name is Ogawa Yuriko. She was especially interested in gemstones. Gemstones refer to stones that possess a strange power, or to put it more simply, they're crystals. There are all types of different stones, and they all have different effects. They can make your eyes better, heal you of illness, calm you down, bring you money, all just by possessing the stone. Sounds like a dream, right? Of course, there are those who say they're just fanciful. But if people want to believe, that's up to them. If merely possessing a gemstone is enough to make someone think it works, then isn't that value enough? Amongst them, lapis lazuli is quite famous. They say that if you have one, you'll achieve happiness. You'll find lost items and fall into a love you never thought would happen. It possesses a power to turn around your misfortunes. It's no doubt trivial whether it actually has anything to do with having a lapis lazuli or not, but that's for people to decide for themselves. Amongst girls, I think it was quite popular for a brief time. But even amongst enthusiasts, there were rumors of a stone even more powerful than lapis lazuli. They call it Luba Dies. It's a beautiful amber stone, and it's extremely rare. It's impossible to get in Japan, and it's far too expensive for a normal person to buy. But still, its effects are said to be enormous. They say that no matter what your wish is, the stone will grant it for you. But it's strange, right? If you're able to get your hands on the expensive Luba Dies, then you can probably already fulfill most of your desires. But still, it's a bit silly to want it, right? I can't understand the thought process of the rich. And of course, Ogawa-san knew all about the Luba Dies. She already had a lapis lazuli, but it wasn't enough. That's what they call human greed, right? After learning of the Luba Dies, she no longer believed in the effects of lapis lazuli. But the price of it was not something she could ever achieve in her lifetime. To get the gem of happiness, she would have to sacrifice her own happiness. But she was already the type of person who relied upon others for things. Those types of people only think about themselves. If she couldn't get what she wanted, then she wanted it even more. And apparently, she prayed to the gods every day. Kami-sama, please gift me with the Luba Dies. I'll give you whatever you want. How stupid, right? If you've got the time for that, then you should put it towards something more productive. But it's strange. The gods perhaps really do exist. It seemed like they heard her prayers. It also started from some thin rumors of the truth. She suddenly overheard some classmates talking. Hey, have you heard of the Luba Dies? What's that? She immediately wanted to jump into the conversation. But instead, she feigned ignorance as she listened. It's a really expensive gemstone, but its effects are amazing. Oh, nice! I want one. Idiot! You can't just buy one just like that. But apparently, a student who used to go here had one. Huh, that's amazing. Ogawa-san listened to their conversation, surprised. So someone at their school once actually had a Luba Dies. Her heart burst with envy and regret. But that person died. Huh? So then it had no effect, huh? If they died, then it had to be a fake. I don't think so. I mean, they died in an accident after all. But until then, they were really happy. Really? Really. And then it was buried with them apparently. The Luba Dies. Oh, what a waste. Ogawa-san couldn't stand it any longer. She rushed over and joined the conversation. Hey, what was that person's name? I think it was Okazaki? Okazaki, I don't know the first name, but I think it was definitely Okazaki. That was enough for Ogawa-san. She could start working from that. All she had to do was look for an Okazaki-san who went to their school and had died. She quickly found her after looking through the past graduation albums. Her full name was Okazaki Sachie. She had gone to their school 25 years earlier. That long ago, she had known about the Luba Dies, and even had one herself, and that made Ogawa painfully jealous. Gemstones weren't even a talking point with the public back then. And that's how selfish people think, right? Of course, you know exactly what Ogawa-san was considering, don't you? She planned to dig up the grave and steal the gem. That's right. That's apparently what she thought. Her head was filled with nothing but the Luba Dies, and she was already thinking of it as her own. So the fact that it was buried in someone else's grave was unforgivable to her. And so, she thought she had to go and get it back. She sure had a lot of nerve thinking like that, huh? While controlling her impatience, Ogawa-san hurried to Okazaki-san's sleeping grave. Hey, before I continue, do you want to know what type of person Okazaki-san was? I don't really mind either way. Is that so? Well then, let me tell you just a little about her. Okazaki-san was apparently the daughter of a rich Zaibatsu family, and her father got his hands on the Luba Dies when he went overseas. It cost about the same as a single house, so it served as a fitting souvenir from his trip, something that people like us wouldn't even be able to imagine, right? She loved it. Nobody knew at the time that the gem was supposed to bring happiness. It was just a rare, international stone, and everyone at school was talking about it. So then the girls who told Ogawa-san about her, they also heard her story from somewhere. She really was just like a princess. She'd never once struggled in life, and because she was raised with care, she had a straight, innocent personality as well. To put it nicely, she was pure. To put it not so nicely, she wasn't very cautious of others. Looking in from the outside, she seemed really happy. Her father put all his love into raising her, and her classmates spoilt her as well. But there was one thing she didn't have, and that was the love of her mother. Her parents were divorced. She had lived with her father for as long as she could remember, and so she thought, I want us to live together with my mother. But she had no idea where her mother was or what she was doing. Whenever she brought her mother up, her father clammed up. But then one day, Okazaki-san stayed behind late at school. The new school building hadn't been built then. Almost all classes took place in the old building. It's in terrible condition, right? The wooden walls and floors are rotting, and there are spiderwebs everywhere. Of course, it was a little better at the time. But still, it stank of mold, and when it rained, water droplets fell here and there. Don't you think it's strange that a Zaibatsu daughter would attend such a school? The truth is, this school was also the school her mother went to. She learnt that when she was in junior high. She found her mother's old school uniform in the back of an old closet, and that was how she found out. And that's why she decided to come here. The day she stayed behind late was during the test period. She was studying in the library. There were no club activities during the test period, so most people went home early, meaning the school was quieter than usual. She left the library and walked down the hall. She was thinking about going home. Then, as she passed by the music room, she heard the tone of an organ. Kurata-san, have you ever looked back on the past and felt a certain sadness? I guess you could call it nostalgia. A feeling of longing, of sadness. That was how the music made her feel. At once she was drawn in. Then she looked through the window into the music room. A beautiful student was playing the organ. What grade was she in? Maybe she was a member of the music club. With that on her mind, Okazaki-san lost herself in the girl's performance. At the time, the piano was always used during music lessons, so the organ sat in the corner, covered in dust. But that organ put out a bewitching sound, like that of a raw human voice, and it resounded in Okazaki-san's heart. Before long, the girl noticed Okazaki-san watching her. She stopped playing. Okazaki-san was bewildered, thinking she had interrupted the girl. I'm sorry. Please, continue playing. I'm going home now, so... The girl's eyes dropped to the keyboard, and she quietly said, No, you're not interrupting me. Is that so? That organ, it plays beautifully. The girl nodded, her eyes still downcast. I'm sorry. Looks like I really am in the way. Okazaki-san apologized to the girl and attempted to leave. She averted her eyes and stepped away from the room. Then, after taking a few steps, You're not in the way. She heard the beautiful girl's voice. For a moment, she doubted her ears and turned around. As she did, the voice continued. You're not interrupting me. Okazaki-san felt strange. Was that really the voice of the same student from before? Maybe she was hearing things. With that on her mind, she ran from the building. After that, Okazaki-san passed by the music room after school numerous times. But she never saw the girl again. That was around the same time she received the Luba Dies from her father. She had it made into a pendant. She took real good care of it. And then, each time she thought about how she wanted to see that girl again, she squeezed it tight, like she was praying to it. Then, she saw her again. That beautiful girl. She was playing the same song she had heard that day. That strange song. Okazaki-san was enraptured. She secretly listened to the organ outside the music room. This time she didn't want to interrupt her. After that, she went to visit the music room several times to hear the organ, praying to the Luba Dies. And when she did, she always saw the girl that she otherwise wouldn't see. The time she spent listening to the girl's performance was like a dream. Okazaki-san lived a luxurious life, but she still had her own problems. Her relationships at school, her studies, and her loneliness without her mother. At times like that, she listened to the organ music, and it soothed her heart. She went to listen to the organ after school, when nobody was around. When people stayed behind until late, she waited until nighttime, and then stealthily went to listen. Before she knew it, people were gossiping about her staying behind late at school, wondering what on earth she was doing. But no matter who asked her, she never told them the truth. If she told people about it, they would all come to listen as well, and she would lose her precious time spent there. One day, Okazaki-san went to listen to the organ without praying to the Luba Dies. The music room was filled with the smell of the building's wood. The organ sat quietly. If I play it, I wonder what sound it'll make. She approached it as though being pulled in. Okazaki-san had never learnt how to play the piano or organ, but she wanted to try and make that beautiful sound come out of it. What do you think she did? She tried playing it. She slowly pressed down on the keys, but no sound came out. Ah, so there are some with silent keys. But still, that girl played so beautifully. With that in mind, she reached out for another keyboard. But still no sound came out. Ah, I forgot the pedal. The sound won't come out unless I press the pedal with my foot, right? She tried playing the next keyboard while pressing the pedal. But there was no sound. She got scared and, pressing the pedal, tried all sorts of keys. What? But not a single sound came out. She wanted to figure out who the girl that played the organ really was. Maybe she wasn't of this world. A sense of foreboding consumed her. She gripped the Luba Dies and prayed. She wanted to know the truth behind the girl who played the organ in the music room. Then, she made her way towards the music room again. The empty, nighttime music room. At the time, the hall was just starting to rot here and there. As she walked, it made sounds like it might fall out beneath her at any second. That was what she thought. The school sure was creepy at night. She always listened to the organ with such joy that she never thought it was scary at all. As she got closer to the music room, she heard the organ music again like always. After taking a deep breath, she peeked through the window. And nobody was in there. The keys on the organ moved up and down of their own accord, playing a song. At that moment, Okazaki-san felt a presence behind her. Nervously, she turned around. Ah! The girl who was always playing the organ reached out for her shoulders. No! Surprised, she shook the girl off, but her hands went right through her. It was as though her body was made of air, and she couldn't touch her. For a moment, the girl's expression turned sad. But Okazaki-san couldn't think. All she could do was run down the hall. That night, Okazaki-san lay in bed, thinking. Just who or what was that girl? Thanks to the power of the Luba Dies, she knew that girl wasn't human, though. Was she a ghost? If so, then whose ghost was she? Ideas rolled around her head. Then, her body froze. In the dim light of her room, her limbs went hard like lead. Do you want to know? She heard a voice coming from somewhere. Do you really want to know who the girl playing the organ is? It sounded like a woman's voice. A low, reverberating woman's voice. Who is that? Okazaki-san tried to speak, but the only sound that came out was that of her breathing. Sachie, my sweet child, the voice suddenly said. Her mother? Okazaki-san was confused. She vaguely remembered something. Didn't her mother die somewhere? And that girl playing the organ, was that her mother? Her brow broke out into a sweat. It was a humid night. Relying on the dim light, she searched for the owner of the voice. Then the light suddenly disappeared. The woman's voice echoed, almost like it was shaking the bed. Sachie, stop visiting the music room. If you don't, you will die. Okay? Listen carefully. You told the Luba Dies that you wanted to know about the girl playing the organ, right? She is... At that very moment, she heard organ music. Then, in addition to the deep female voice, she heard another beautiful woman's voice. That voice filled her with a sense of longing, and it reverberated clearly. Don't be fooled. It's me. I am your mother. I'll play the organ for you. I broke up with your father when you were just a baby. I'll sing you a lullaby. My sweet Sachie. Okazaki-san grew sleepier by the second. No, Sachie. You mustn't fall asleep. You mustn't be fooled. You'll be killed. Sachie, believe me. This time, it was the deep voice. The two voices echoed in her head. Kurata-san, which do you think was her real mother? The clear voice that played the organ. Mother! Inside, she called out to the clear voice. And then... Sachie! I told you not to be fooled. Fine, I'll show you who the girl playing the organ really is. The woman with the deep voice spoke, and it felt like something smashing against Okazaki-san's head. A shock, like she'd been hit. Then, she passed out. When she came back to, she was lying in the dark school building. Why am I... Her paralysis had broken. As she stood up, she saw the beautiful organ player. She was in the hall before the music room. Sachie, look closely. It was the deep voice she had heard while in bed. She squinted, looking closer. An unknown man appeared beside the organ. He gripped a knife in his hand. He started thrusting it towards the beautiful girl's face. Blood poured from her head. Gah! Okazaki-san shrieked. Sachie, the organ girl was a student who was murdered here long ago. She has nothing to do with your mother. Look at this tragedy. This really happened at this school. Sachie, I told you not to be fooled. That girl's ghost is stuck here. She's an evil spirit trying to fool a naive young lady such as yourself so she can kill you. See? The man holding the knife noticed Okazaki-san. Then he slowly approached her, his knife raised in the air. The beautiful girl's head shook as blood poured out of it. I'm your mother. I'm your mother. I'm your mother. Okazaki-san's head froze with fear. Mother, help me. Mother! She desperately sought help from the woman with the deep voice. But, Sachie, I warned you. I'm not your mother. I never once said that, did I? If you want to ask me something, then grip the Luba Dies to do so. My sweet Sachie. Okazaki-san tried to run, crying and screaming. but the man with the knife seized her. They found Okazaki-san in the music room the following day. She was dead, her head trapped in the organ. The school ruled it an accident. Everyone knew that she'd been staying behind late at school after all. While taking part in whatever secret thing she was doing, she had an unfortunate accident. Those were the rumors that spread. Her father had the police investigate, but in the end, they never found any criminal who may have killed her. Of course they didn't. She was killed by a ghost. The wishes Okazaki-san asked the Luba Dies for were granted. She saw the girl playing the organ numerous times, and she found out who she really was. But because of that, she was killed. If she had been more careful, then it probably wouldn't have ended up that way. Apparently, the person who found her body said they heard a deep woman's voice coming from behind them. "My sweet Sachie, you should have been clearer with your wishes. Like, let me see my mother. Your mother is still alive, you know." Although she has broken off relations with your father, but she is still alive. When the person who heard the voice turned around, they found the Luba Dies pendant on the floor. It glittered with beautiful light. Kurata-san, do you feel bad for Okazaki-san? Do you think the Luba Dies was like a devil jewel? But there were times the gem made her happy. When she listened to the ghost playing the organ, she really was happy. What do you think? Do you understand the power of the Luba Dies? I can't believe it. That's right. Unless you've experienced it for yourself, it's hard to believe such a fanciful story. Well then, let's continue Ogawa-san's story. She had no trouble pinpointing the location of Okazaki-san's grave. She went to her father's house, told him she was a student from the same school and had heard about his daughter, so she wanted to go pay her respects. He couldn't refuse her for that. And they told her without suspecting a thing. Then she carried out her plan. As night fell, Ogawa-san made her move. Graveyards are terrifying during the day, and also at night. She was a high school student all alone. Not everyone could do such a thing, and her plan was to dig up a grave. She sure had nerves of steel. Or perhaps the Luba Dies, sleeping in the grave, was calling to her. Either way, she pushed Okazaki-san's tombstone aside, and then she removed her urn. And when she opened it, it was inside. The beautiful amber pendant. "It's mine. My Luba Dies." She clutched it to her chest. With this, she could be happy. She would become happier than anyone on earth. What do you think, Kurata-san? Having gained the Luba Dies, do you think Ogawa-san achieved happiness? She didn't. I think everyone would feel the same way. No, rather than saying she couldn't be happy, don't you think people would feel that that type of person shouldn't be happy, Kurata-san? But she was happy. In complete contrast to Okazaki-san. It makes sense. Okazaki-san didn't even know that the Luba Dies was a gemstone that could make people happy. So she didn't know how to use it. All she did was ask it for help on occasion. But Ogawa-san was different. Even if it was a devil stone, she made no mistakes in using it. That's why she was happy. First, she got a fine boyfriend. She was rather pretty, so this wasn't odd. She could have done so even without the gem's help. But there are quite a few people around like that. People who normally can't do anything, but with a little self-suggestion, their personality completely changes. Ogawa-san was like that too. Believing in the power of the Luba Dies, she had the confidence to do anything. But once you go over the limits, what happens then? Not knowing is frightening. She soon broke up with him. She'd finally gotten a fine boyfriend, but it wasn't enough. She had the Luba Dies, so an even better boyfriend would be more fitting for her. To cut a long story short, she got sick of him. She asked the gem, and they soon broke up. She was arrogant to begin with, so even when she didn't ask the gem for help, things soon fell apart anyway. She also got money. Quite a large amount of insurance money. She got it from her father's death. Nobody suspected that she had killed him. On the contrary, people felt bad for her. They were all fools. She got happier and happier as her wishes came true. But she was never satisfied. After all, she was seeking the ultimate in happiness. There was no way she could be satisfied. Then she started to think about her own unhappiness. She was so upset that she couldn't become happy despite having the Luba Dies. Then she hit upon a great idea. She asked the gem. Do you know what she asked? It was simple. She asked to be happy. She gripped the Luba Dies and said, "Please, make everyone unhappy." Do you understand? Her wish is currently being granted. But I don't think she'll ever be satisfied with it. And so, she'll keep asking, "Please, make everyone even unhappier." I wonder how many people are out there right now that possess a Luba Dies. Perhaps the only way to stop her wish is by another person who also has a Luba Dies stone. Please, make everyone around the world happy. But I wonder if that would ever happen. Think about it. Would people possessing the incredibly hard to obtain Luba Dies really wish for everyone's happiness? Perhaps they've made the same wish as her. Then, the stronger it gets, the unhappier everyone gets. There's a saying that other people's misfortunes taste like honey, right? If everyone is unhappy, then that would no doubt make her happy. As long as it doesn't harm me, I'm fine with that. Kurata-san, you should take care as well. While you're here listening to scary stories, all sorts of things are taking place around us. Don't forget that Ogawa-san is here at our school either. Whatever unhappiness befalls you, it's all because of her. In the end, the seventh person never came, huh? So this marks the end of our gathering then? How sad that nothing happened. It sure felt like something might. Oh well. Sometimes I get things wrong too. Well then, everyone. Shall we call it a day?